Counterpart Jong Un in Singapore on Tuesday. Earlier on the agenda, Blain Herman spoke to our reporter Oliver Whitfield-Miocic in South Korea. He started off by asking Oliver about the significance of the summit.
Very important here in South Korea, Blain, for the South Koreans because they need the US and China on board in order to strike any sort of peace deal. That is what the main hope is for people here in South Korea. Technically, South Korea and North Korea have been at war for the past 65 years because only an armistice agreement was signed. Also hot on the agenda is denuclearization. Now, the US would like North Korea to give up all of its arms all at once. North Korea, however, wants it to happen in a phased and controlled manner. So as this summit approaches, there are leadership teams and negotiating teams from the US meeting on the border town of Panmunjom here on the demilitarized zone, trying to thrash out those details about what compromises can be made. There's been advanced meetings in Singapore as well, and so those are going to be the main topics up for discussion at this summit.
Oliver, what's the part in terms of Donald Trump's that plays in this one? He fashions himself as the king of deal making, in the United States. Tell us about his part in bringing these two nations together.
Well, really, it was South Korea and North Korea that started this relationship in January. Following the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics, the two nations got together. But the US does play an important part because it is a regional ally of South Korea, and also they need to sign any amendment to that armistice agreement. So in order for that to happen, Donald Trump is going to come with his own conditions before any of that is allowed to go forward. Now, key to that will be him allowing this deal, if it can be achieved, to be reached. We know it's been a rocky relationship so far, though. National Security Advisor John Bolton made some comments comparing North Korea to the situation what happened in Libya. North Korea was so offended by that they threatened to pull out of the summit. Donald Trump then said he was going to pull out of the summit too. Now all of a sudden they're getting back together and it looks like it will go ahead, but we can't be certain until the 12th, until they're sitting around that negotiating table on Sentosa Island in Singapore.
Yeah, indeed, it's been an exciting couple of weeks and a lot of posturing, I guess. But what's the sentiment on the ground? And what are analysts saying? What's the likely outcome on North Korea?
Well, that really depends on who you ask. Some experts say that North Korea is never going to give up their arms, that this is the only fail-safe guarantee that they've got, that there will not be a regime change, that can guarantee the North Korean regime's security. Others, however, say that this is a completely different era. Jong Un really wants to revitalize the economy, and so he realizes in order to do that, the only way is to give up the nuclear arms and to see the easing of sanctions, which would then allow North Korea to trade with other nations, to build its tourism economy up, something that it is trying to do in the coastal province of Wonsan by building a number of resorts on the beach there. So it really does depend on who you ask. Feeling on the ground here is that it might just happen, but conservatives in South Korea say that the US needs to keep up its policy of maximum pressure, something that the US has now hinted it might be easing back on.
Half of the expected 100 Cuban doctors